Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for
Good morning,
joining
all.
us. Episode 21, Couple of Kooks. This morning we really don't have anything planned. Dad and I just figured we'd go live and hang out with you fine people and talk about whatever. So, yeah, we just saw you on Friday night with Nancy
Yeah,
on Figure It Out.
it was a
And
very exciting show.
I think we did a pretty good job attempting to figure it out. Uh, Pretty good. Um, so I don't think you probably haven't had time to really work on much that we talked about. I would
I have not.
Yeah.
I have not. I have worked on.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, Shannon. Graham Slayer. There's the Canaan in the chat.
You were saying you worked on.
Yeah, I got worked on the sci-fi gun, and then you and me talked about maybe doing a more classic style helmet that kind of chins out a little bit more.
Right.
To have that, everybody calls it the RoboCop look, but I think the one that they did is fine. It just looks like the modern 4-inch version. I think
Sure.
it'd be cool to have a classic option to go with your classic rifle.
Makes sense to me.
And
People like the retro stuff,
they do. And we don't have to wait for a retro release.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Stellar Stiletto / Star Brigade Starfighter.
Mm-hmm.
That's I didn't work on that much at all because I was trying to get some stuff. I was hoping I'd have a sci-fi model, the rifle model ready today, but I do not. It's very, very early in the stages. I want it to look like the old one, at least the silhouette. I don't want to do an exact replication like we did with Sci-Fi V2,
Sure.
but the silhouette will be the original weapon. It'll look pretty much the same. Just that gun has it's a total mirror image from one side to the other. So I think I'll doll that up a little bit, make it so it feels a little more, I don't know, just a little more modern looking.
Okay.
Most modern rifles are slightly different from one side to the other. You wonder if a laser rifle would be, but we'll see.
Makes sense.
So that is in the works. There are a few other surprises in the works. Um, I got stuck on. I rescaled the rifle, the L83 or XL83 for the. I rescaled it 114%, so it's 14% bigger. It looks a little better. That also, what I didn't do when I first did that was I didn't scale up the optic and the front hand grip. So I scaled those up, and then I was going through the rifle kit that we made just for fun for AR, and I'm putting the scaled optics on. I'm working on 4 other optics for different rifles. I am probably on the sci-fi retro gun. I'm probably going to put that new. I think it's an XM 157 is the name of it. That's the new scope that's on the rifle, the new M7 Army infantry rifle.
Okay.
I'll use that. That's got very advanced optics. It calculates wind, humidity, and all that stuff for the shooter. The idea was the Army wants to switch to go back away from the spray and pray mentality and one shot, one kill mentality. So even squad support weapons are going to use that same optic, use the same basic frame, just a bigger, heavier barrel and a better system. The M7 is an interesting weapon. SIG makes it, but it's interesting and it's really not. went with a very small focus group on who liked it, but when they actually started sending it to troops, there were lots of changes. It has to have a suppressor. It will not function without a suppressor. And when they use it, the problem is the suppressors and anybody that has anything to do with weaponry at all, anytime you use a suppressor, that suppressor gathers heat. The heat gets so hot that it messes up any thermal image capability of the scope. So there are some kinks to work out. The whole idea of that gun was it's going to be this long, and this is all the bigger it's going to be. But then partway through development, they were like, oh, it has to have a suppressor sticking out the end of it. So that added 6 inches to it. So we're back to basically the same size as an M4. It's just, man, it's you see the billions of dollars that have sunk into that advanced weapon system, and it is pretty phenomenal.
Interesting.
To get that far in.
Triple D, what's up, sir?
Triple D.
My other brother Tony, how you doing? Tony. How you doing, man? We're thankful for you too, man. Crash is here.
Crash.
Crash gifted 1 membership. Thank you, Crash.
Awesome.
That's phenomenal. I'll give you
holy underwear.
Yeah. Thank you.
It is my privilege to extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new members.
This one's for you.
Thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you very much. And then,
thank you.
I hope whoever gets that. I don't have any members only content. It's really just supporting me. So I hope they like that. But yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Very much so.
It's big league. Interesting. Yeah, I honestly I haven't looked much into the M7 thing. I don't know. It's usually something I would follow along with, but like give a shit just hasn't been there.
Yeah, I had not in a while, and then I was working on things for a grindstone collaboration project, and I wanted to start kind of looking at where the military is right now, and I was like, I've been out of that for a little while, for about a year, and I can't believe just how much information has come out in the last year about both what the Marine Corps switched over to and the Army. And for the first time in a long time, the Marine Corps has said, like, no, we're going to stick with this one that we developed in between these other 2 programs.
Interesting.
Hey,
you got it. Cool.
All right.
I appreciate it, Crash. I do.
Awesome. So it was a not a rabbit hole in the fact that, you know, like usually a rabbit hole, you end up at the end of it somewhere you didn't foresee going, but the depth of these projects, and when you look at how much the military complex has spent on advanced weapon systems since the Land Warrior project, you know, and I think about that. That's cool to me because you know, when you were a kid, G.I. Joe came out with that set that had the first Land Warrior and the original. Remember that had the G.I. Joe, like the modern Joe, and then the advanced one that had the radio pack and the M4 that had all the stuff on it.
Yeah.
That's where this started, was with that project, and the iterations of it going from there, the programs that they put in place, and the billions of dollars that have been spent. That's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. And this one, in between this one and the last one, the Marines were like, no, whoa. We're a small group. We can afford to outfit our troops with that rifle. So that's what they did. And then the Army continued to work with Textron, General Dynamics, and 6 Hour to create this new rifle, and SIG won the contract. personally, I think SIGs is the least impressive of the three. Each of them had pros and cons, but then the Army kept adding these parameters as the program was going on, and SIGs was flexible enough they could keeping up with those parameters. And when you look at that and you look at the complex and you look at all of these companies that make up that complex, and things get thrown around like inside information and things like that, and you're wondering like, well, how did SIG know? And SIG didn't really develop anything new except the ammo design and obviously that optic, which SIG did not create. SIGs is basically one of their current rifles. They just added some things to it to meet this new program, whereas General Dynamics and Textron came up with completely new platforms. And that's been going on a while. When I was at Bass Pro, the president of the company at that time had been one of the high-ups at Textron. So he and I would BS about airplanes and missiles, and we talked about this weapon system that they were working on with a contract. It wasn't secret knowledge. It was public knowledge. They even had like a book, like you used to pick up at SHOT Show,
Mm-hmm.
We're lining that thing out, and it was a caseless ammo system. And so that was the first parameter, was it needed to be caseless. So both General Dynamics and Textron spent a ton of time and development cost creating two totally different types of caseless ammo. It was pretty cool. Like both of them had these two totally different designs for caseless ammo. And then suddenly the military's like, well, it doesn't have to be caseless. Okay. So these other two companies had spent all this development and all this to create caseless, and SIG's like, oh, we got an idea. The qualification for the ammo, I forget the distance exactly, but it requires this, I believe it's a 6.8 millimeter, and the weight of the gunpowder is so, if you don't use a caseless, like I said, Textron and General Dynamics were developing this caseless that could handle that powder load,
Right.
Well, when the Army said, well, that's not really necessary, so SIG's like, oh, well, we got this, and they ended up, so it's a brass casing, but the bottom, just about quarter-inch, is steel, so that it can handle the back pressure of that bullet firing out of there.
That sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It's crazy, because the whole idea was, because it's a one-shot, one-kill mentality, your troops should be able to carry less ammo. Well, getting that mentality down to people that end up being 3 days or 4 days into the field without a resupply, that's going to be difficult. And 6.8 is bigger than, 557. So the ammo, the magazines are wider, they're heavier, and now you add that little bit of steel on every piece of ammo, right? You don't think it's a lot, but you're carrying a couple hundred rounds, not to mention you're carrying your water pack, other pieces of equipment that have been developed for these new programs. The scope is heavy, and that was another thing. The scope was supposed to be this lightweight design, and then they ended up coming up with this fairly heavy, very, very cool scope. But like I said, what happens is the front end of the rifle heats up, and the scope has issues, and the soldiers on the field in test and in operations now have this whole thing about a red screen of death, where the reticle just turns into a big square red square, and it fills the scope. I think it's just failure. So there are all these things
fucking
about
typical.
Yeah, it's so, to see how much money they've spent since Land Warrior, and then you finally do this thing, and then you keep changing the parameters of it, and then you come up with the rifle, and you tell everybody this is the rifle I'm going to use. It had to change so much that when it first hit the infantry hands, it was called an M5. But they changed it so much that now it's an M7. So
that mixed metals in a magazine, just, that sounds like you're going to have to like take out your ammunition all the time and make sure that it's dry, or else you're going to get corrosion, because it's two kinds of metals, and that's what happens in an imperfect environment, which military personnel are usually in imperfect environments. Right now we've dealt with sand for the last 30 years, but we need to be
Yeah,
prepared
who's to
things
say where
like-
the next theater will be, and you have to prepare for that.
Yeah, and how's that thermal reticle work when you're in the desert heat and the sun's beating down on you at 120 degrees and your plate carrier's hot as shit? Like, how does that? That's also, it all seems like a cool idea, but it in theory, not in practice. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But,
yeah, other than the thermal issue, it is really cool for one shot, one kills. Like I say, it pretty much makes a rifleman a sniper.
right.
I mean, it calculates everything, and you choose whether or not to use its calculation or your own.
Sure.
And then, of course, it has a red dot reticle, and but it's part of the interface. It's not like some of the current scopes that use fiber optics where light shines down.
Yeah.
There's a fiber optic line on top that sucks in the light, and then that lights the reticle. It doesn't do that. It does have there is a piece of it that does. So it's all this stuff into this one fairly short, really interesting optic. So anyway,
on the
I
road
may
today, heading back from Iowa to Iowa from Wisconsin. Happy birthday, Cooter! Appreciate you.
Happy birthday.
Stay safe, my guy. Crash. Zakanin, switch over to forwarding Crash the Chad messages. I think he'd appreciate that. Gonzo, good morning, sir. Good
morning.
Gun Bunny's in the house. Good morning, sir.
Gun Bunny.
Happy to see ya. Jimmy Purvis, damn it, forgot y'all were on. Show up late and y'all are talking my language. Right on, man. Right on. Same time, what's good, gentlemen? What's good, Shane? Sugar Shane? Crown Slayer says it's something like 52,000 PSI CC.
Yes.
The ammo?
Yeah, see, I mean, it would wreck most current weapon systems. So the barrel has to be reinforced, it's lined.
No more shirtless dude. Send him the other stuff. No raccoons. That's just for you, buddy. Yeah, that's
it's crazy.
That's insane. Honestly, the thought of having something like always suppressed is cool, but again, it just seems wholly unnecessary. And honestly, I don't like the idea of one manufacturer having both your sidearm and your rifle. That seems like you're monopolizing your weapon system, and that's a dangerous game to play.
Well, and that's what I was saying earlier about the complex, right? I hate using like conspiracy theory things because it's not. I don't mean it that way, but what I mean is SIG, because of the way they developed the rifle. I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. Like the entire front end, right? The entire foregrip is this frame. And it was literally held on with 4 of the 4mm screws. And it's got it's like a weird star pattern that is just for that gun. So it's included in the rifleman kit. But at the same time, it's like, holy shit. So it's just 4 of them. So if you mount a laser sight at the end, this thing wobbles around just under fire. So if you're firing it and you get a little crazy and like turn your hand this way or that way, you would move that entire thing. The laser would be 5 to 10 meters off target for a laser.
Worthless at that point.
So that was part of the M7 side of it, is they redid that. But the suppressor, all right, is supposed to help that from moving around, from the rifle floating too much and moving the foregrip. And it's also required for the rifle to fire at the range that the government said it had to fire at. It's a lazy excuse to extend the barrel outside of the parameters of the original gun. That's all it is. So they can hit the target at the length that they want it to hit at the range.
That's so weird. Like honestly, like the more you're telling me about it, the more it seems like they had these other companies that were working on what they said they wanted. And then at the end of the day, they were just like, hey, look, we're going to go with SIG. So this parameter really doesn't matter. And they're like, okay, well, that doesn't matter. And I was like, still letting the other guys waste their fucking time and
Yeah,
development resources.
It really felt like SIG was not the top contender until the parameters changed, and then all of a sudden, oh, this one's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, we have this. We'll just tweak this. Like, no, you don't though. You have what is now, but not what we needed initially.
And that's not, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about SIG. They make some of the finest firearms in the world. But, you know, you brought in companies that are not normally firearms manufacturers, right? But Textron's been working on this future weapon system for several years, even before they got the contract to compete. Yeah. And it's really strange because it just feels like you had these two companies that have technology. You know, Textron, you know, a lot of people haven't heard Textron's name, except like sometimes somebody will say something negative about something and somehow Textron's name gets brought up. They are a company. They are fairly aggressive in their campaigns. But they've been, it's not unusual for Textron to get brought up, especially when you talk about Textron was one of the few companies that came up with a plane design that was designed to not necessarily replace A-10s, but to make A-10s better by creating a program where you had your A-10s, but you also use scout planes. And the scout planes would go out. They're very heavily armed. They're fine. But these scouts would go out, manned craft would go out, scout targets for the A-10s, almost like, you know, the AWACS used to do for jet fighters. Okay. You know, it was a really cool concept, and the military did buy several of their planes. Several of them didn't go to the military; other people bought them. But it was one of those deals, you know, like an F-20 kind of deal, where everybody was like, "This is what we want," and like, yeah, but we're not gonna buy any. Apparently not, because they spent all their money on research for these weapon systems for the future that only last 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the parameters is this framework for the squad automatic weapon and the infantry rifleman weapon. Also, the Army, part of the parameters was this weapon has to last for 50 years. This platform has to last for 50 years.
That's a hell of a long time.
Well, I mean, it is, but you know, you think about the M16 to M4.
But, you know, weapons do it. It's just, damn, man.
And that was one of the things. The version before this new one, everybody was still trying to build a better M4.
Sure.
All right, so Remington did, and that's what the Marines bought. Which
makes sense. I mean, right? The eastern world has done that with AKs. Like,
yeah.
Like they just keep that's the platform, tried and true. So you just tweak on it. You make now it's this. You know,
so
Chinese
got
their version, whatever.
And then the Army said, "Well, we're going to totally change how the Army operates. So we don't want an M4. We want the next generation." And that's what happened. You know, so basically, you bring three players that had not been major players in the M4 improvement war. They brought these guys, you know, they're like, well, here's three companies, here's two companies that just do future soldier concepts and things like that, work on things for that. Textron also does optics and all kinds of.
I mean, that makes sense, right? You want something out of the box, so you bring some people that think outside the box, right? That's the innovators, the guys that haven't been, you know, we want to design a wheel. Okay, well, we don't want wheel designers doing that. We want somebody that's, you know, maybe more broad, you know, does valves or something. You know, you want something like that to think outside the box, because everybody's so stuck on M16s because that has been military rifles for 50 years.
Yeah, but there's a lot to it. So the rabbit hole became me like investigating, like just kind of looking at how they got there and how they chose what they chose. They had just spent years developing this next gen M4, scrapped that entire project. The Marines were like, hold up, that rifle is perfect for us. And like I said, first time in years that the Marine Corps was able to say, with their budget, that rifle fits our budget. We're not interested in this 50 years in the future shit. We just want something we can use right now.
Yeah, we need our ops right now.
Yeah, and so that's what they did. So Remington, I believe, is who won that contract, which is cool. That's cool to see that in the military after all these years, to see another old school name hit the
Yeah,
stack.
honestly, it's impressive that Remington's even in the conversation because of how things have changed in military rifle technology.
Yeah, I got a shout out to Cooter. He at AR he gave us some box cutting knives.
Yeah,
I have used the crap out of that thing. I love it.
really, that's awesome.
It's so awesome. I just want to shout out, man. That's one of the coolest things. Like, I didn't think about it. I got home and I'm unpacking stuff and I put it on the table, and then I'm going through some old boxes from when I moved, and I'm like, oh, I got that, and I grabbed it off the table. I'm like, oh my god, this is perfect for just opening boxes. Because you think about like a utility knife is fine, but when you have collectibles in the box, it's nice having something that has that hook design so it doesn't cut.
Sure,
There's
that
no
makes sense.
chance you're going to cut the box in the box. It's great.
That
It's super
makes
cool. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Scooter. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, that's cool. That the like you said, like the Marines have never had that kind of respect or budget as far as DOJ stuff is concerned. Like World War II, they got like whatever was left over. That's how the Marines
Yeah.
the M1941 Johnson rifle is like. Well, the U.S. military is not going to use this because we've already got too much money in the grant. The Marines were like, all right, we'll take the fucking thing. Like, and then it ended up being like, a lot of guys like, revered it. Like it was an amazing rifle, So yeah, so that's cool that the Marines were finally able to like, you know what? No, we're not doing this shit. Like, I'm not gonna wait 6 years so you guys can just still fall back on the M16 and get the M4 and give us the leftover bullshit. Like, no, we're gonna develop our stuff now. We'll take that. You guys keep doing what you're doing. We'll continue to be the fucking pipe hitters. It's fine.
Oh, hold on. I'm checking this data here. HK ended up winning the final thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super. Of the two companies that I would think would not be economical choices would be SIG and HK.
Now, even though it's developed from the 416, it does not look like the 416.
Wow.
So, I guess we're talking about it. I can share this. I can share a Wikipedia page, can't I?
I would imagine so. Jimmy's got the info.
He knows.
He's following along.
Yeah, so here it is. The M27.
Interesting.
And it's cool because the Marines also are developing their own sniper rifle.
Oh, wow. I'll be right back.
He'll be right back. So yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I could not remember the name they settled on. I just thought it was really cool that after all these years that finally happened, that they went their own way. It also, Mikey, I talked about this before. In the past, the Air Force has also been, everybody thinks about the Air Force and flying planes and stuff, but the Air Force has several forces that are ground forces, including pararescue and a few other things that are more elite units, and they've always kind of got the leftovers too. So I'm kind of curious where they're going to fall in this. In the 80s, it was really kind of a joke. Like the Air Force would go through, and some operators would pick, like, okay, this unit would say, okay, we're going to use this version of the receiver of the M16, and then this, and they just have these cobbled together pieces. So I'm curious what they're doing. Badass. That's cool. So that's kind of like I said, it was a rabbit hole that I wasn't planning on going into, but I really wanted to look at what everybody was looking at, future concepts and things like that. Kind of to get, I like a lot of stuff that I do for future stuff to be grounded in something. The Spaceman and Astro Suit kit was just kind of something that I really just thought looked cool. Like I just had a cool silhouette that I drew, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to make, and that's what I did. And then I backtracked and said, okay, this is how this technology works, and that's how this works. And so, working on the thinking about the sci-fi rifle, and if they had that laser rifle right now, that scope, if it worked the way it was supposed to all the time, that would be a perfect scope for someone that had to, you don't just fire one shot. Sci-fi in his file card, it talks about how he could, burn through something. So, all right, man, do what you got to do. So that's what when I do like a lot of my concepts and development, I always try to find something, especially when I'm talking about a military force. I always try to do something that a little bit of sci-fi, but try to ground it in reality enough that if someone that was into military hardware and was into things would be like, oh, that's cool because that's like this or that's this concept. And then sometimes with science fiction, you just have to like go for broke and hope that technology could really do what you just made up. It happens. So anyway, let's see. So that's working on that sci-fi rifle. Like I said, the helmet will be more the classic style. So it's simple, just a simple swap out for the helmet. I'm a big fan of the sci-fi figure. And if you guys watch any of the shows, you know that we, like that was my one G.I. Joe Christmas present, and it just happens to be one of my favorite ones. It's one of my favorite characters. I love the whole idea of laser rifle troopers, and so I just think that's cool. Like they're not like laser rifle troopers like Starship Troopers or anything like that, but I have found that even in science fiction, that the whole laser rifle thing is really not something that ground troops ever end up with. It's always some sort of physical ammunition projectile that it fires. However, the tech that fires it is, but in space it's a little different. But ground troops, Starship Troopers, even that kind of stuff, aliens, those guys all still end up with projectile weapons. So there's some truth to that. You got to think that if somebody was operating in environments where they don't know what the gravity would be and they don't know certain things like that, then possibly you're going to have to, and obviously in space you don't have oxygen to fire off a round traditionally, so you'd have to have a way to fire a projectile. But in the end of the day, it's a projectile weapon, so you just got to come up with something that works for that. So anyway, that is that. Other projects that I am starting now. I'm starting it now so that we have it ready for DFW for our. I think we'll have two different. We'll have a panel / build panel, and it'll be like a panel where we talk about what's coming up for a couple of kooks, but we'll also do something for those that are there, and then we'll have a panel that will be either for a vehicle or a figure, and the vehicle we're going to build will be this. So that will be the vehicle we'll build. As time gets closer to June, we'll have more information on what you will need to bring for that. So that's kind of what that is. There are two main line versions of that ship. One is the Starfighter for Star Brigade, which is white and blue, and then there's the Stellar Stiletto, which is red, gray, black. But there's also, as Mikey brought up the other day, Fun School made a version of it that is black and yellow with chrome parts. They don't put a canopy on it because it came with a animated series Batman figure. It's pretty ridiculous. But it would be a fun build, and it would be cool to do something like that for the DFW build. And if you still be able to get the kit and do what you want with it. But if we did like an exclusive colorway, that might be what we do. So we're just kind of playing with that. If you guys have suggestions or ideas, I'm always happy to hear it. The Stellar Stiletto was designed by Dave Kunitz, who has been to the last few DFW shows, and I will probably chat with him and see if he might want to, if I can get him to make an appearance at whichever panel we put that thing together in. So I'll talk to Dave and see if he can do that. I don't know if he will, if he'll have time, but since he is, if we were able to sponsor him again, then that would be my ask of him, would be to come to that with us and to watch a 112 scale stiletto get put together.
Yeah, for sure. What's up, Brandon? How you doing, man?
Welcome.
Good to see you, sir.
So that's the stuff I'm working on. Obviously, if you build the Star Brigade version of that, we have the sci-fi kit. Fingers crossed that they'll do some sort of Arctic tripwire, so everybody doesn't have to paint those bodies white.
That would be really awesome.
That would be so great. It would be.
Man, that would be really nice.
It would be so good.
Painting white is a real bastard. Yeah.
Or yellow.
Yellow also sucks.
No matter what it is, you need white. If you're making something red, it's nice if it's white. If you're making something yellow, it's nice if it's white.
Yeah. Brandon, that's kind of what Wednesdays are for. That's
what Mikey does on Wednesday.
Live.
I believe he's done we call it the Zukov Zippo kit, which is Dragonsky from October Guard, that kit. Mikey did one of those on that show all the way through. The sci-fi kit, Mikey customized one of those. So if we do a kit, Mikey usually tries to have at least one series on his show. It may take him a couple of weeks, but he does one series to show how that kit is built. This sci-fi figure is one of my favorite customs ever. I love it. It looks like it could be the classified version of sci-fi, like V2.
So yeah, when Pops finishes a kit, I'll do the build live, but the rest of the year is just kind of working on. Sometimes I'll be working on commissions. Sometimes I'll paint heads. It's kind of all over the place. But yeah, that's JMK Custom Works live with Two Silly Gooses, just me and Tony talking about random stuff while. And sometimes he does stuff too. So
sometimes Tony works on stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, check it out, buddy. Appreciate it.
Good. I think we will try to at least do a Star Viper helmet. And Mikey and I haven't sat down and talked about what we could do, but if we could come up with a build for a Star Viper, maybe just need some extra pieces or parts, I would probably try to do that just as something that may be a figure that gets customized there. I don't know.
Sure.
If we do one that's a nice quick, and a Star Viper, let's be honest, would be a pretty quick custom.
Yeah, I mean he's black except for his hands, his harness, and his head, or helmet. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something. If we can figure out a recipe that's quick where nobody has to do a lot of painting. Yeah, we could very, very easily make that part of a DFW for sure.
And as I talked about on the show the other night, we're going to try a different format, and that format is instead of it being one single cost for the whole thing, you'll have the cost of being in the thing where we will provide some things, but like the Starfighter kit, you'll pay for that kit. You won't pay what we will sell that kit for, It's going to be an exclusive deal. But you'll end up putting out about the same amount of money as you did last year, same amount of money as you did last year. We'll just split it up to what we're going to charge for the class and then what we're going to charge for the kids. So if we do build, let's say we built a Star Viper. Okay, let's say we did that. I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying if we did that, then we would give you a recipe of parts to bring, and then we would supply whatever parts we were supplying, and then it's just a matter of we'll put it together, make sure everybody gets the parts right, make sure we have everything for everybody, and we'll do it that way. This will avoid what happened last year. It's January. I'm already working on this stuff, so there's not going to be we'll have complete kits there. There may be colored components, so that's kind of what we're looking at. The whole thing was last year, both Joe Fest and DFW were both hindered by the fact that we weren't done with what we needed to get done. So I don't want to do that this year. I want if you guys come to both of our time slots, I want you to walk away with cool stuff that's finished and complete, and possibly there's a chance that if somebody missed the class, they could come to the booth and buy it at an exclusive price for the show. But that would be it. And obviously for you guys, you guys that watch our show or support Mikey or Canaan's channel, then you guys would be privy, if the Starfighter kits are ready, you would be privy to those at Joe Fest. And we talked the other night, we're not going to set up a table at Joe Fest, but we will do is we're going to do we're going to get something together where a group of us from these channels can just hang out. We'll have our kits there for those people because we'll have our inventory ready to go. And that's what we'll pull around, and you guys can get the kits at, without having to pay shipping. We'll put some bundle deals together for anybody that wants to just jump right in on, they haven't been able to do it or they want to do it or whatever. We'll have some bundles and make some deals, and you guys can go home with some couple of KUK's kits. And so that's how we're going to do. That's right now. That's kind of what we're thinking for Joe Fest. DFW, we will have a booth or table, and we will do our stuff because that's also going to be where we're going to keep all of our stuff for the whatever classes, panels, whatever we do. We need a place to put all that, so that will be at DFW.
Also, to reiterate, like last year, DFW came on the heels of Joe Fest. Like we drove from Joe Fest to DFW. This year, DFW is first. So we'll have the table set up. We'll do the classes and that kind of stuff, and then basically we'll have like a month for Pops to build back the inventory up a little bit, and then we will bring stuff to Joe Fest.
Yeah.
Last year we had to bring everything to Joe Fest because we had to have it at DFW
in the car.
Back home.
Yeah.
So this year that is not the issue. This year there are definitely two planned attacks. Like one's DFW where we hit it full strength, where we do our thing, and then Joe Fest because I know that a lot of our guys are going to Joe Fest and maybe not DFW. So we will see you guys there, and if you guys need us to bring stuff, we can try to accommodate.
Yeah, by that time you will know everything that we had available for DFW.
Right.
And if you guys want something that we don't know, like maybe we haven't made it for a little bit, there may be a couple of spaceman pieces, astro suit pieces, but for the most part, that kit is going to kind of be what it is with maybe some accessories, because that is now moving on its life into something else. So maybe we'll have some different pieces, different attachments for the back and stuff we talked about, when we develop the kit. We'll probably still do that. But right now I want to focus on making sure that we have a vehicle and a figure exclusively for DFW to introduce it, and then we'll go from there. And if I get some other things done, if I get the sci-fi kit done before that, if I get all these other things done before that as we go, just so there's something new in the pipeline every month or so, we'll do that too. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the plan. Like I say, it's January, and some things could change. There could be more in the pipeline. There could be kind of a pause for a little bit, and we focus on some other things. And probably we've had enough figures come out since our last Lazy Customs video. Maybe we'll do a Lazy Custom video. I mean, there's been a ton of stuff that's come out since then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Cliff, good morning.
Morning, sir. Good to see you. I did. I finished up that Billy Butcher custom. I got the code in the mail finally. There it is.
So great. So cool.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy with him. I even painted the bat, and the way I did it, it looks like wood grain. I'm pretty proud of it, actually.
Very cool. Largo's in the house.
Jim. Good morning, sir. How are you and the chickens doing?
Your mom says that is badass.
Thanks, Mom. She'd say that anyway, but I appreciate it.
Contractually obligated.
Yeah. She'll support me no matter what, but I still appreciate it.
It turned out really good.
Thank you. Morning, Ken.
Morning, Ken.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now, do you have anything?
Expand.
Do you have anything that is any like? Okay, so Billy the Butcher is technically a head that you painted that you got somewhere, right? But you turned it into an entire figure for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything coming up on JMK that on your show on Wednesdays? Do you have any big project like that coming up? Or I know you're doing a lot of heads and showing off a lot of heads. Do you have anything coming up that you're going to do like an entire body custom for?
Yes, I do. Johnny, my dealer, my Brute Squad Entertainment.
Brute Squad Entertainment, Kansas City.
That's right,
Comics
baby.
and collectibles.
That's right.
If you're ever in town, check him out.
That's right.
One of the best collections of classified figures.
Oh, that's no doubt. That's no
area.
doubt. And he's not pricey either. Like some figures are I mean, they are more expensive, but he has almost every classified. Like he really tries to keep everything in stock, and most of the time you're paying retail, like he's got like a Cobra Island Major Blood. Well, that one's gonna be more expensive because they were limited. What up, Evil Dookie? So anyway, 2 weeks ago when I was at his shop, he really doesn't like how small Leatherneck is, and so he was talking about using these parts, and I was like, I've got a build that I've started, and I just haven't found all the right pieces to do it, but I said what I was doing was using the new Sergeant Slaughter legs because they're big legs, and the boots are unbloused. The trousers are unbloused. So I was like, and then I was using the Professor Xavier Savage Land arms because they're 3/4 rolled up, So I was like, this is what I'm in the works with. Like, I'm not happy with it yet. The shoulders stick out too far. So I got to find the right torso to accommodate that. So we started looking at that, and then I realized that I had found out that new Grim Viper uses those legs, but in green. So that's the Grim Viper legs, and I'm betting he's going to go to clearance because he seems to be the one that's always left over out of that wave, or people are getting like.
I did verify that. I did verify that Walmart is just getting cases of just Grim Viper.
Yeah, see, that's weird. That's weird. So we looked at some other figures to kind of do the build, and we came up with the Grim Viper legs, but then using that new the retro rock and roll, which was popping up at Ross for like $7, $8, using that torso and arms with leather necks, gear, and vest, and all that stuff, and it makes a pretty good looking leather neck. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty good. Even the head, because of the way his vest sits, the slightly slender neck doesn't stand out so much, but I still might end up tweaking it out, changing it out for something else. But that build's going to be coming up on JMK Custom Works Live.
Cool.
Gooses on Wednesdays. So, and that one, he wants it to be painted where it looks like a factory figure. He wants it to look like the leather neck if they would have used better parts. So,
Okay.
Little extra challenge in there. So that will be the build coming up on Wednesdays. For at least a couple weeks, I'll be doing that. But that uses all Hasbro parts because, like I said, he wants it to look like
yeah, just mold selection.
Yeah. Whereas mine, I want to do a little more. I just got to find the whole recipe instead of just half of it. But yeah, that's what's coming up. Because I'm always working on heads, so that's no big deal. And then, of course, the Big Bad Workshop stuff, I can't show any of that, so I can't do that.
Right. Yeah, that's how I am with stuff that I'm working on for Grindstone. Like it's being worked on, but I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't really talk about it except to drop hints here and there.
Yeah, I can say I'm doing it, but I can't say what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So. No, actually, I rarely use paint markers. Actually, the only thing I've really used paint markers for is actually this Hawaiian shirt pattern that I did for Billy the Butcher. And it's just flowers and leaves. Flesh tone for the most part, I use the Kislev flesh from Citadel. That's my base pretty much no matter what. Unless I'm doing, African American head like that Eddie Murphy or the Sam Jackson heads or something like that, then I'll actually tweak the base tone to be different. But otherwise, I use Kislev and then like a sepia wash and then dry brush over it, and that's kind of the base stages.
A lot of people have success with the paint markers. It's just once you get up to 1/12 scale, you really have to worry about overlaps and things like that because they will show up really bad. I mean, you really have to. But you find that with any medium, with any media that you use, if you work on it long enough, you can master techniques that other people can't do. It's just like using an airbrush. Mikey uses an airbrush, and there's
most of the time
people using a brush can get the same results, but only with practice and only with the things that they do. The airbrush just gets you to that point faster. The nice thing about markers is they don't dry up as bad as paint does. You don't have near the mess that paint does. And there are times when it's really handy, especially if you have a raised detail on something and you just want to hit that detail and you don't want to worry about a brush bristle getting sideways and going over a color that you don't want to repaint.
It is handy for that.
There are definitely uses for that, and a lot of that got learned when everybody started using the chrome markers, right?
Yes.
So I remember when those were brand new, and people were like, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And people were literally using the marker to paint a whole head. And if you were patient and let that head set, it actually turned out pretty nice.
Yeah. Melted Copper 9247. Not familiar with that name, but welcome. This is this is a couple of kooks. This is me and my father. Um, that's my dad there. We do we talk about painting and basically collecting from a father son standpoint because that's been our dynamic for over 30 years. So
It was pretty
yeah,
natural.
so sometimes we talk about toys. We both work on toy lines. We both do some painting, so we talk about custom stuff a lot. Dad does 3D modeling and printing, so he makes kits for us. Yeah, that's kind of the rundown, man. Appreciate you being here. Ken says the Billy the Butcher looks terrible, but he'll send me my address so he can dispose of it for me. I appreciate that, Ken. I don't think James Lucas would be very happy about that.
Way to step up, Ken. Way to step
really,
up.
Really taking one for the team, pal. I appreciate you. Jim says, when Action Force 1944 debuts, do you think y'all make some Sergeant Rock or Dirty Dozen head sculpts? Head sculpts typically are not your bag because it's an organic thing, and you are a oh, go ahead.
Yeah, mechanical, yes. Non-organic. But there are some head sculpts out there that part of the Dirty Dozen are already represented.
True.
So I do look for. There are a couple of sculptors out there that are doing things that I almost think that's what they're doing, is slowly working on a Dirty Dozen set. But yeah, the Action Force 1944 has some really cool things that would be great. I've been waiting years to do a really non-sculpted Sergeant Rock and Sergeant Savage. They're slightly different designs, but yeah, I would love to do that. I hope so. And I will say that right now, as far as a 112 scale Sergeant Rock, the one that Dawn Man Studios does is really good. And it's got a removable helmet, which he doesn't always do. I wish he did more removable hats and helmets. But that helmet is really good, and that sculpt is a really good. I mean, it's Sergeant Rock, sure, but it's just a really good masculine hero type sculpt.
Yeah, it's good. He's got kind of messy, pushed back hair.
Yeah,
it is a good sculpt. I would love to see some world, like once those come out and the bodies are available, I think people will start doing World War II themed heads. I mean, Where Eagles Dare, Longest Day, Dirty Dozen, definitely Kelly's Heroes. I love to see all that shit. I think right now, really the only World War II head I have is Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
to go on a Saving Private Ryan, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, somebody I found in some of my files, I found a Lee Marvin head. It wasn't very good, but it's out there. That Charles Bronson head that you have is really good.
The Bronson head is good. Yeah, that's good. I mean, Eastwood exists. It may be a while till we get a Don Rickles, but
yeah,
that'd be good.
I bet there's a lot of people. We're talking about Kelly's Heroes that would love to do Oddball.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we get a Donald Sutherland, right? That'd be good.
Be really good. He's basically a classic tank commander, just a little loose. Yeah. So that one would be so good, hat and everything.
I agree. Yeah. Like I said, I think once the figures show up, that secondary is going to explode with head sculpts. I think. And
I think so too.
I'm going to be really excited about it. To be honest,
it's a great deal. Brad,
Lord Davenport. Good morning, fellas. Sorry, Mikey kept me up half the night talking blah blah toys blah. I don't know if I would agree that I was the responsible culprit for that, but we did have a good conversation. I'm glad to see her.
I'm just going to say right now, this last sentence here sounds like a couple of Kooks t-shirt in the making.
Branding, blah blah toys blah. Greg's in the house. Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
Largo says, yeah, Sergeant Savage underrated. He'd be awesome at 112 scale. I couldn't agree with that more.
I agree.
But I mean, you and I both love the World War II history stuff. So
Sure.
anytime you bridge that with comic books or movies, like both of us are very, very into that. Very much.
And when you think that there are actually like 3 archetypical sergeants, right? You got Rock, Fury, and Savage, that all have similar looks, but only in the fact that they're World War II characters. They each one have a different. This sounds crazy, but again, we're talking about trying to take catalog parts that are already on the shelf and make something. Each one of them has very different boot, shoe designs, pants designs.
Yeah. That's
and even though Kubert ended up designing several of them, he made very different looks for the characters. So, they do have, you do have bare arms here and there, and you have, but I think it's Sergeant Savage. Technically, Savage is in the comic art that Kubert did, he just has his pants over his boots completely.
Over his boots, for the most part.
One of them has a cuff. Like, it's not tucked in, they're not bloused, it's just a cuff. So there's just, the fun you could have to have 3 badass sergeants in that scale that maybe they're all green, sure, green and khaki, but they're very different characters,
Yeah, I mean, I think like Fury, like his earlier stuff, he almost has like the airborne boots that have the top wrap on them, but then Rock has gaiters.
Yeah,
he has boot covers. Like every one of them is like they're each one. If you had them on a shelf, they'd look completely different, but they are essentially the same dude.
Right. And that's something too. Sergeant Rock has several iterations throughout time. When they did that, so the art changes, and there may be an issue in there where they were dressed like this, and it was just a throwaway issue, and nobody really thought about it. But it allows you, as somebody that's trying to, interpret an entire comic book run into one figure that's going to be on your shelf. Then you take that into consideration, like, oh, I could have blouse boots on this one because in issue 107, blouse boots, and he had one sleeve and didn't have the other sleeve, so maybe I do that. I mean, it gives you so much range there when you have a history that's that rich. And Sergeant Rock, I would say, is a pretty rich history.
Yeah. The only thing go ahead.
I was just going to say, Sergeant Fury does too. It's just a much shorter run. And Sergeant Savage is a more new concept that was, that lasted a little bit. But like I said, you do have more than one issue to go to and look for things. The nice thing about Sergeant Rock and Sergeant Fury is you have backup characters from their squads that are actually named characters that look very different, but they're all in the same aesthetic of World War II. I feel like Sergeant Fury, the Howling Commandos team, is much more diverse looking as far as different colors and different clothing from different countries, whereas Sergeant Rock is just like this is the group, and they're all versions of U.S. Army troopers of that era. You know what I mean? Like, so it gives you a little more, but that's the thing. If you're going to do squads, like, you'd have 2 very, very different looking squads with slightly different sergeants running them. I just think it's a lot of fun, and that line, from what I've seen so far, will go a long way to flesh those out.
I agree. The only thing I'm not looking forward to is it only being Allied forces.
Give it time.
We'll see. Laura grew up watching all those classic World War II and Western classics with my dad, for sure. And there's some really great movies in there. Cliff's looking forward to the 1944 figures, but it sucks they're a year away from getting them, for sure.
That is sad, but
there'll be plenty of stuff in the meantime. Greg's hoping they do a P.21.
Oh God,
that would be amazing. I would bet every fiber of my being that Bobby will never do that. That's a lot. As badass as it would be, because it would be cool. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, with your grandfather pilot one, like that's incredibly cool. Aviation
really
history,
cool.
also something that Couple of Kooks is very much into.
Right.
LBK, good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
We talked about the World War II stuff. Just remember that Hasbro did obviously a toyized version of a P-40 Warhawk in their Savage line.
Oh yeah.
And a classic Jeep. So thinking about, if you're going to try to run like some World War II custom works and, with all the 3D modelers out there doing the larger G.I. Joe 112 scale stuff, the P-40 Warhawk.
Yeah.
P-51, P-40, Spitfire. I mean, there's a lot you could do there.
That's for sure. That's awesome. It was talking.
I heard that he did, and that would be cool.
That's really cool. That would be really, really awesome. Laura says, Agents of Omega from Feshmonkey Fiction finally giving us a post-Vietnam era adventure team in 112th. I love that. I know Dad loves that because I was in the original hotel room pitches for what became Call Sign Longbow. So I know that both him and Troy are very much into adventure stuff. So I know Pops is excited about that idea as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Because that's just going to be cool. Yeah, Brandon says good things come to those who wait in agony. Like we used to say in my past life, fast food's not good food. Good food's not fast. Yeah, that's for sure. Right? There's the 3. You can have 2 out of 3 things. Right? It can be good, it can be fast, it can be cheap. It can be all 3. Toys for sure follow that. What's up, Sam? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Sherman tank would be cool too. I would not buy a Sherman tank. I would be tempted to buy a P-51 just because of its amazing. Oh, good deal.
Don't worry, jerk. I'm sure he'll figure it out.
He's gonna come in handy. I believe it.
Just for anybody that doesn't that maybe saw our last show, that didn't watch the other night, like on Mikey's favorite things on that episode, Mikey talked about a toy from his childhood that I had. Mikey now has that toy, so
the exact
mission was
one.
complete. I said on that show that if I had it, he could have it. So I spent a couple of days digging for it, and I found it. That is the Metacom Alien.
He is, in all of his goofy splendor. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
It is really just a Metacom figure, 1990s era, with really well done overlays.
Yeah, it's all
PVC overlays.
It's all rubbery.
And it has maintained its rubber condition in all this time. It hasn't deteriorated like a lot of Hot Toys stuff does. Kind of cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. I'm really excited about it.
For sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. That would be too cool. Yeah, Panzer II. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But there are, I believe there's a 112 or close to 112 scale Tiger out there. It's a radio control kit.
That's cool. Yeah, I love the World War II stuff. That would be too cool, man. Yeah, it's definitely not something I could get swept up in wanting vehicles and stuff like that, but definitely figures. And if I could swing it and it was available, an airplane, because there's a lot of airplanes that I would gush over from World War II. I mean, all kinds. We had some cool stuff, but don't forget the Germans, the first jet.
Oh yeah, 262. My God,
262 would be amazing.
But on that, even Even though you
Ooh.
say that, there's the Stuka, Flock Wolf,
Yeah.
109 Messerschmitt. You've got some,
E47. Jesus.
like I say, Spitfire, the Meteor.
Spitfire would be cool. Yes.
A 262 without a Meteor in the mix would be kind of sad. You're gonna have the
True.
P-51 Meteor. Usually the Brits actually literally would use meteors to knock rocket bombs with their wings to knock them off course.
That's wild.
Yeah, so pretty cool. Pretty cool. The Meteor was England's first jet.
That is cool. Kev says Medicom made awesome toys.
They did,
Hey,
and
this
the
one,
problem,
that's for sure.
they're just small, So like I have the Boba and Jango Fett they did, and you put them next to Sideshow, and then Hot Toys' newest stuff. They look tiny, but the detail is so good and it's so crisp, and they're just good. I didn't get rid of them because my Fett collection still likes them in it, especially the Boba Fett.
For sure. Virgo Cool's in the house. What's up? What's up, lady? Yeah, B-17, no problem. Just take up an entire living room ceiling. That'd be fine.
I'd be good with it.
34 would be cool. Greg says, my grandfather on my mom's side was in the Navy. He was in the 7th Fleet on APT boat. Wow, that's cool.
I really, for a long time, when Hasbro was all in on 1/6 scale there, and they did PT Boat Commander, I was just thinking, like, they're going to do a PT boat. I just want, because at that time, we had several companies like pumping stuff out for 1/6 scale that had never even been heard of or never been involved. Blue Box, BBI was doing stuff, and 21st Century was killing it with half tracks and M3s and all this stuff.
Oh yeah,
Vietnam era and modern, or World War II era and modern. They just went all in, and it's sad what happened to that company. They just diversified too fast, and they probably could have survived it. If Dragon survived it, they could have survived it. But Dragon focused on what they knew, and 21st Century started getting into 1/32nd scale, and then they tried doing this, they tried doing that, 1/18th scale, and
before they knew it, they were underwater.
If they would have just stuck. Well, man, my God, Soldiers of the World was even putting out some really nice stuff.
Yeah,
their Jeep, their World War II Jeep is an amazingly good piece if you can find them.
Sure.
Hasbro Jeep is good, but that one that World Peacekeeper, Soldiers of the World, whatever company they were, not World Peacekeeper, Soldiers of the World, right? That's what they were. Or is that what they were at that time?
Yeah, I think so.
But they went from doing these really cheesy 12-inch figures with visibly interesting but terribly inaccurate clothing on an awful body to suddenly having these really well detailed kits and better clothing. When they finally put out their last few waves, they were some really good product.
Oh, that Vietnam set they had with the Starlight kit on the M16, that was Dragon quality. That was
every bit of it.
It was everything was removable. Like you could remove the Starlight scope, you could remove the suppressor. It was every bit of as fragile as Dragon, but the quality for detail and everything like that was right there. Corsairs would be cool.
Oh yeah.
Corsairs would be cool. Maybe even better to make because the wings could just, pop
more easily displayed in a room where you could pop
for sure. Yeah, you could fold them up. Yeah, that would be good. Brad says he once invaded my neighborhood with a bunch of Mitsubishi Zeros, like the little foam ones for 50 cents from my 17th story balcony while blaring the scene from Bohar. Oh my God. I would love to hear somebody else's perspective of you doing that, like somebody on the ground that was like, I was just hit with planes. That's awesome. Kev says, still have my Metacom, Boba, and Django. Also have the Predator, Alien, and a couple of Godzilla.
Man, I wanted one of those Godzilla suits so bad. It just kind of, I missed the window, to get one. But I thought those were so cool. I love
That would
Godzilla.
be cool. Cool. We have an RCPT boat in our basement that I think is 1/48 scale. And
Yeah, it's big. It's big even in small scale.
Yeah, it's not like a destroyer, but it's substantial size. They weren't little. Hey, Mark's in the house. What's
Good
up,
morning.
sir? Happy New Year, my man. Brandon says, I love my RC 112 scale Willie's Army Jeep. Perfect for 112. Yeah, for sure. I could see that. Largo says, 21st Century Toys make great Vietnam era 1/6 scale stuff. I have my Mutt Jeep they made in my adventure team. Yeah, 21st Century was absolutely killing it for a long time with the Vietnam stuff. I mean, I remember that one of the first sets they had that came with the figure and all the pieces, and then the several weapon sets that came after, and clothing sets and stuff. Like, 21st Century was killing it, and they were accessible, and they were not expensive. Like World War II stuff. You had the Dragon stuff, and it seemed like even then those were like crazy expensive. Thinking about getting those. But then
those were expensive. They were $45.
$45.
Yeah, I could get a 21st Century set for $8,
right?
Or 12 with the uniform and everything. I think they were. And what's so cool about that era, if you did collect 1/6, like that was kind of Mikey's, like that was when we were knee deep in it, and both of us buying stuff and trying to build whatever characters from GI Joe. Then all of a sudden, like all the really crappy companies that made like rubbery stuff would just come out with stolen versions of everything in like rubber.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like so there was just and also Lanyard was putting out a 1/6 scale series before they cheaped it up. That was pretty cool future tech, modern stuff, but the clothing was exciting and cool, and they had bad guys. 21st Century came out with that terrorist figure.
Yes.
The trench coat. God,
yeah, with the ski mask, and then the other one with the dogs, and then the girl in leather, and the leather trench coat and stuff.
Yeah, and they had a red one and a black one.
That's the one. Yeah, man. Hey, Virgo.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, lady. Appreciate you.
Yeah, they and then they had the bad guy that had the two dogs.
Yeah, the two dogs. Yeah. And then right about there, when Blue Box entered the market, when BBI came in, they were doing some really cool bad guys, and you had
really cool, slick movie style
Carlos, and then the guy that had like the crazy like revolver. Who was that guy's name? Oh man, I can't remember. Carlos was the all leather one, but he was the one that had like the soft muscles and stuff. Like he was the first muscle body they did. I can't remember his name, but man, they were doing some cool shit.
I think you're talking about the revolver. Was that the assassin with the slicked back hair?
No. This one was he was a black guy, bald.
Oh
like
yeah,
gnarly face.
Scorpion.
I can't remember what all he came with. He came with like a cool like a bulletproof vest or something.
Yeah, he was really cool.
He had remember he had that wicked knife, like the crazy
with the curve back on it.
That like the hook on it. Yeah, that's the one. I can't remember. He came out like at the same time Carlos did, but I cannot remember what that one was. What that one's name was. But because I remember we tried to use the body for Roadblock because he had exposed muscles and but he didn't pose very well. It's not like the muscle suits they like have now. Like, geez.
Yeah. And then Blue Box. Then they decided to compete with 21st Century at Toys R Us. Brad, the thing about them that was 21st Century's first female buck, and it was awkward. It was so bad, and really in the trench coats and stuff, they looked okay. But man, if you tried to put them in anything else, who really came through with female figures at that time was BBI. The Blue Box International came out with the Psy Girls.
Okay, I was trying to think of what that line was. I didn't realize that was blue box. But yeah, those were intense. That's yeah, I think for sure.
That was 21st Century, I'm pretty sure, because that's what that line was called, was the villains.
Those villains, yeah, they were cool. Man, like Toys R Us had like an entire line that was like 1/6 scale stuff.
Oh yeah, one
The
entire
whole bottom shelf was all fucking vehicles, tanks, and trucks, and helicopters. And in 1/6, I mean, they were the Little Bird was always like half the size of a Little Bird, but it was like, GI Joe'd up.
I guess,
small.
I never thought I'd wish that Little Bird was smaller, but man, if it was just a little smaller, it would be perfect for class.
It's almost classified. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, cool, man. So cool, and so many weapons because there was so much competition, everybody had to keep getting better. So by the end of that, Hasbro was putting out, kits that were like, you had the handgun, you could rack the slide, you could drop the mag, you could pull the bullets out of the mag, like it was even a spring loaded slide, so when you racked it, it snapped back. Like,
yeah,
they were just
I loved
pushing each other to compete.
The M4 they had that was, you could put all the pieces on an M4.
Yeah,
the mag slid out, the stock went back, the different scopes on it, the bayonet on the end.
So good.
That was a time. I'm telling you guys, that was a time. If you were into 216 at all, it was just like everything was available. It was so cool. Like everything from, older stuff, and Soldiers of the World continued to put out, like, they improved like their Civil War kits, and they improved their Revolutionary War kits. They put out a set of rifles from the Revolutionary War. They weren't high quality, but you had, these different flintlock and, they just did. It was like anybody that pretty much any era. Dragon was putting out nice things from all the eras. Even had a couple of Korean War figures in there.
Yeah.
Dragon put out a Viet Cong female sniper.
Yep. Remember that
Min.
one?
She's in a black suit.
Yeah.
With a, whatever you call that, rice patty hat or whatever they call that, straw pointed hat.
Zack hat. That's what I call it. The Zack hat.
So,
for instance, have you guys ever seen Danny Hoon custom RCs on YouTube? He does insane work from John Wick customs in vehicle to Dire Straits animatronics. No, I've never seen that.
I have not. That's interested.
Wild. Kev says those.
They did make some. They're at the end when they came out with the second wave, and then after that they started doing some other like niche things. I thought that was pretty cool.
Side Girls was the one where you could change boobs, right?
Well, yes, Mikey, you could augment their breast size. The bodies, if you bought the naked bodies, you could augment the breast size. It was just a plastic or a vinyl piece that came off and went on. They were soft boobs even.
And now that's the cutting edge in 1/12 scale female figures is changing out assets. Crazy. Thongs and trench coats would be a good theme for a bar. Coats and tails would be a higher class establishment. Let's see, you guys are really firing on the same level there.
Yeah, it's good to see that the chat is in sync.
Yes, very much so. Must be a Midwest thing. In basic training, had that Little Bird hanging from the ceiling in his office.
Man, I've seen several people use that Little Bird as a ceiling fan.
Yes.
Like they set the bird under the fan, so when it's on, it just looks like the blades are going.
Yeah, I have seen.
I still have a Little Bird, so that is one of my favorite.
Hooray for boobies!
Sure.
Who wants high class? I'm thinking no class and self-esteem. Well, to each their own. Why choose one when you can have both options? Brandon, appreciate you, man.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, it does, but we appreciate you giving us some of your time. Boob, we can rebuild them.
That was the idea there. And what was funny,
I would argue better, faster.
They did make their clothes different. So the more enhancement, like the worse it was. Like they had this female ninja chick that had like an open front, and it was so funny if you did try to put the larger breast on her, like it was just totally open. You know, it was funny. They did a there was a game, Perfect Dark, was I think what it was called, and they made the lead character who was Joanna Dark. They made that figure. They made there was I think this show was called Andromeda, or however you say that, Andromeda. That the guy that plays Hercules, Sorbo, he was a character in it. They made a line of those figures. They did a lot of stuff. And at that time, there was a company that made Final Fantasy the movie figures in 1/6 scale.
I remember those. I remember those. I remember you having those.
The movie, I say movie, it was a it wasn't a live action movie and it wasn't a cartoon. It was a computer generated show.
Yeah.
But they made like 5 characters from that. There was just so much 1/6 scale stuff out there.
Yeah, it was like everybody had access to IPs and licenses, and we're just grabbing up everything, you know. Like we kind of see that with 112. I don't think we really ever saw it with 118, but
that's not
1/6.
necessarily.
It was pretty crazy. I mean,
because there was a time with 1/18 where almost every store carried some kind. Even you could go to bigger.
I mean, outside of the 80s where everybody just stamped.
No, I'm talking about after the 112 scale craze kind of wound down, and then like World Peacekeepers started feeding the 1/18 scale stuff out to everybody. But it still wasn't in the. I'm just saying that once, if you like tried to make a list of the favorite figures, the amount of time you would have to spend for us, because we had so much of it. We didn't care who made it. In fact, we enjoyed like mixing things up. Remember, the first blue box figures had an operating mouth that opened and die cast weapons. So they didn't have a lot of movement. But then that same company, 5 years later, you literally had, like Mikey said, where you could pull the slide back on the pistols, and the rifles were incredibly articulated. MP5s, where you could slide the stock out. And then Hasbro did that line of the guns. What's that one called, Mikey? I know you bought a few recently that were you could assemble them. Like it was all the pieces.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all, they weren't all modern weapons. There was a Tommy gun in there. And then 21st Century did a Tommy gun that had like, it was on their big card, and it was just all these different components to put together Tommy guns the way you wanted. It was an insane time. And at that time, oil was cheap, and nobody was worried about the fact that, like Mikey said, Toys R Us would have Stuart tanks out there on an island, just a stack of Stuart tanks from 21st Century. It was so crazy, man.
Yeah, it was wild.
They did. So that was such a good kit too. Like I say, there were kits that are great. Like, and it's fun now because we opened almost everything in 1/6 scale. So now I'm kind of going back, and if I go to a show and I see one of those carded weapon sets, I'll pick it up. I remember getting when 21st Century, their first round was, they had like, I think 4 weapon sets. One was M4s or M16s, and one was Vietnam era weapons, and one was like modern submachine guns. And finally, we had a perfectly scaled Uzi, a Mac 10 and a Mac 11 in the same package. It was a really cool set of submachine guns. And that was like their first come, and then their first figure was kind of lacking. The head sculpt was terrible. It was so much so that, like, in the 1/6 world, we literally called him Puddinhead. Like, that was the name for the 21st Century first head sculpt, was Puddinhead.
Yeah.
Like, so much fun.
Yeah. It's terrible head sculpt. Dude, that talking Duke figure was bad. It was bad.
It was.
And honestly,
and
like looking back at those first blue box figures, like God, that was bad too. Because they had like a key you put
you
into
put it
them,
in the back
and when
of
you
their neck.
turned the key, it moved their mouth. It was because they had soft skin that went over it. It was like a tiny animatronic thing, but you worked the. It was not good. But what that spawned was amazing.
Yeah.
Their stuff was so good.
And then eventually they got to where to hit price points, they would, redesign things and sell them at that point. Toys R Us was the only person carrying them. But then you had all these ways you could get all this the gear and stuff that they'd spent years developing was now in a cheaper package with a slightly less articulated figure, but still good stuff, So Soldiers of the World was doing sets of barrels, oil and gas barrels, gas cans for their Jeeps, all kinds of stuff. So it was. Probably, yes. That's very cool. That's very cool. I really want to find me one of those T-Rexes. I have something I've been working on for a long time. I'd like to snag me one of those. But it's one of those things like we talked about several of our shows and other things like this year. I've had to cut back on stuff. So I'm kind of being real choosy about what I do spend money on when I have money to spend. So sometimes you miss some really cool stuff, and then maybe you get lucky 2 years later and you find it at a bargain store or a thrift store or something crazy. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's where most people found them. The last couple of months, and when those were hot, like I really just didn't have the ability to pick one up. And Mikey got one. I think Zakanan last time Zakanan was at Mikey's place. I was up there and he brought it in. I saw it. I was like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing. I just thought it was awesome. But yeah. Oh, that's awesome, dude. I love that comic when I was little. That was so cool. Well, didn't they do a red Devil Dinosaur versus Godzilla? Because Marvel had the Godzilla license too at that time. I was thinking there was like a comic where they clashed. I can't remember now. It might have just been wishful thinking. Yeah, get that talking Duke. I think there might be some. I think its mouth was automatic. If I don't, it went with the sound of whatever button you push to make it talk. It tried to move with that. Had a very small soldier's vibe. All right. All right. I knew somewhere in there we had a Devil Dinosaur Godzilla appearance. That's pretty cool. Thanks, Devin. And it's kind of funny because I know some of the people that are watching are also 1/6 or were at one time. So, you guys know what I'm talking about. It was a crazy time. That's great. That is great. I hope Mikey's okay. I have a 3D model of a T-Rex, but I'd have to break it up in such small pieces to print it on my printer. Okay. Very cool. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I'd say her powers probably went crazy, and she had to turn herself into a large steak. Yeah, I have, and I've looked at a few different ones. The funniest thing about that, when you're trying to figure out what scanner to buy, is people like really go with either go all in on really small detail like a dental style scanner, or you go with one that can do a little bigger. And it's nobody's really made one that will perfectly do in between, because the depth of perception of the scanner changes drastically from 4 to 5 inches to 10. Like, so finding one that can do both very accurately, you can use the smaller scanner to do bigger items, but it takes a lot longer because you have a lot of more pixels to align. So that's been my main concern. But I'm watching. There's a couple of people doing some smaller ones, and I'm just waiting to see. I don't. It's one of those things. I bought a 3D scanner on Kickstarter years ago, and it was great at the time because I had nothing, and it was a good way to get somewhere. But it was just one that rotated on a rotator and had a camera that was on a boom that lifted it up and down. It would turn it and then boom, turn it, scan. It takes forever, and you have to have the lighting just perfectly. And so I've really not wanted to jump in. And that company that made that now makes really nice scanners. They don't even support that one anymore. So it's kind of like, I don't want to jump in on a Kickstarter for another scanner until I know how it works. Until I know, like, people that are doing what I want to do with it can do it. And I see a lot of like guys on the 3D, model websites are using scanners that are doing classified heads that look just amazing. So I know that's out there. It's just making an investment like that is just not where I'm at right now. But I love using them. I think it's fun, and I think that it's a great if you can use it and pull something in and build something around it. So like I say, I do a ton of hard and surface modeling. So being able to get something that's pretty close and then pull it in and now model over that with the skin and then do what I do. That's an extra step, but it's a step I don't have to pay somebody else to do. Yeah.
Right.
When we were doing the Spaceman originally, like, I tried desperately to find somebody local that could do a destro body scan for me.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, mine won't go that low. I can't do that tight of a thing. Because you got all these people that online are like on like Facebook Marketplace, like, hey, I can do 3D scans. And yeah, they're scanning like grills for cars and replacement dash panel pieces and stuff. So they just couldn't zoom in at that level and get what I needed. I ended up coming up with a much better solution, but I'm not going to be able to do that with everything, so
No.
It would be nice at some point to get my hands on a really, I say dental because that's the size I'm talking about, the size of a set of teeth. Because in the dental industry, same, just like 3D printing, dental did all that first, right? So the dental people were doing the scans first at that detail level. They were doing 3D printing out of ceramic before anybody else was. So it's just kind of that industry, even before 3D printing and 3D modeling, a lot of guys that did sculpting and stuff like that, well, dental tools, because those guys were literally making teeth out of wax, sculpting wax to make your dentures. I mean, it wasn't like they tried to use the scans that they were given, these pictures they're given from the dentist and x-rays and trying to make your teeth. Like, those are like unsung heroes. Like, nobody ever thought about the guys that actually are sitting there wax sculpting dentures. So a lot of the times when I was sculpting when I was younger, I had a friend that actually did that for a living, and he like, oh, you need to get you one of these and get you one of these, and that's kind of how I got started on actually sculpting. I tried sculpting wax for a while, and it's not my thing. But sculpting clay, like, a lot of that stuff comes from that, and then over the years I've learned all kinds of other stuff. So. But I love 3D scanners. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, Jeff.
Oh, sorry, I was hitting the same one. Okay, so there's two challenges, really. One is deciding whether to try to make it an exact replica just blown up, or to classify it up a little bit. It's going to be the same iconic shape. It's going to be, everything's going to be the same. And, just like talking about Gonzo saying that about a scanner, that would be really nice to have a scanner and scan that model in. But I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. So the biggest challenge will be getting all the curves and everything to look right. It's like when you see a scaled-up vamp, right? You're like, man, something just is at the windshield angle. Something about that just doesn't look quite right. So that's going to be the hardest, the biggest challenge is going to be to make sure when it gets printed out that it looks like the stiletto. That's going to be the biggest challenge. You don't want somebody to look at it and be like, that looks a little bit off. But I will tell you this, that a lot of designs that look really good in 1/18 scale, when you blow them up, it's a lot more noticeable when angles are kind of funky and they don't look quite as cool as they do in that scale. So that's going to be, the scaling is going to be the challenge, is making sure that the eye, what your eye perceives is what you get. And I may have to, fudge some angles and do some things to make that happen. So that's going to be the biggest challenge. A lot of it's just, man, if I had a scan, I could just skin it and then start building how all the pieces mechanically work together and all that. But the biggest thing is going to be to get that shape right so that it looks good. Everything else for me is pretty simple. I get the shape right, I get the scale pretty close, and then what I will probably do, what I usually do with this kind of stuff, is I'm old school, so I will literally just draw a silhouette of the 1/18 scale or the small scale one, and then blow it up on a printer, and then start just make a little cardboard mock-up just to see the shape and the size, set a figure on it, put a piece of tape on the figure, make sure it looks like it's not going to be too tight in there. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, but the biggest challenge is going to be get the initial shape right in that scale.
Nice.
But I will say, Largo, it probably will literally be twice the size of the current Starfighter. So that's a good place to start. I will modify it to print on my printer however I have to, but when you put it together, it's going to be that big. And the benefit of that, even if I did it on a big printer and you had to do a ton of sanding and stuff, Mikey and I talked about that Night Raven that I got that is 1/12 scale, because that's a SR71 and it's okay for it to be flat black or kind of a mid black. I'm not going to do a bunch of work on it to repaint it. The sheen and everything looks really good, and the way they puzzle pieced it together looks really good. So I just need to be sure that I do that, make sure that it's good, but that's part of it, breaking it up where it breaks up and looks natural without looking like I literally had to put a line in it because of the printer. I don't want to do that. The canopy will be clear, and you'll have to paint the framework of the canopy, but it'll just be a clear piece. But everything else will be as functional as possible, and if I can, I will put actual landing skids on it. You can tell in the design when you flip it over, you can see that where landing gear would be. It looks like they just decided it would be too expensive for that level, so they just put some detail in those 3 spots on the nose and just behind or just inside of the 2 wings. So yeah, maybe make that so those actually fold down would be, or maybe not fold, but pull down like this. To where you got just a little ratcheting landing skid for it.
Yeah, as long as it fits in the back of a tractor trailer, I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. I'll just send one to Tony when he gets his fire truck done and say, how's this look in the back? If you replace that fire truck the trailer with a launch and storage unit for this thing. I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting an early copy.
No, I'm sure he wouldn't.
Yes, but I'm real excited about it. Like I said, I've been trying to get the sci-fi kit done and knocked out so that we can get that kind of going. If anybody wants one, and then I can really focus on the Starfighter for a little while. And this morning I realized I was messing with the Starfighter I did for Joe Fest or JoeCon and for the custom thing, and I realized that scale, the way it's a little too big, the size of that cockpit, a 1/12 scale figure will fit right in there.
Oh, okay. And make it like a one person craft instead of a troop carrier kind of thing. That's pretty cool.
I will talk to the company that owns the concept of switching out between 1/8 and 1/18 and 1/6 scale or 1/12 scale stuff. I will check with them and make sure I'm not impeding on their patent, but I don't think I will be.
Nice. Well, I'd say it's a pretty good stopping point for us today.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah.
If anybody has any other questions or anything, go ahead and ask, or points of conversation. We'll happily go over anything else. We just kind of wanted to have a laid back kind of take a breath after the first of the year, all the end of the year holiday craziness, and yeah. So that we just want to kind of have a laid back discussion of what's kind of coming without promising too much. I still last year at Joe Fest, I picked up some movie Snake Eyes and Scarlet bodies. It would be really good to do something that fits those bodies, because after everything, the Duke bodies have gone up in price from our first kit. Destros are harder to find, but those movie Snake Eyes and Scarlets are still reasonably priced and easy to get. And the Snake Eyes figure is really a good figure. The Scarlet's not bad. I mean, they're both pretty good figures. They just
both are decent.
They're just attached to a terrible movie.
For sure.
And we're fortunate, honestly, that the figures that we got from that movie are as good as they are, because the costume design is actually pretty good for that movie. Like it's not super cheesy. It's right in. Jacob.
Morning, Jacob. How are you, brother? How you doing, man? This guy.
No. I don't have to do that anymore. And it wasn't reading stories; it was making them up.
He sent me a few voicemails, so I can just listen to the voicemails.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty good.
Yeah, Storm Shadow's a little harder, but Scarlet would be a real good base for a smaller version of the Spaceman kit, the Astro suit, and Snake Eyes. There's, because he is so he has a skin tight suit, so there's a lot of stuff that could be added to that, to make something cool.
I mean, the few customs I've seen with the Snake Eyes body look pretty cool. Like people have done the Metal Gear Solid Ninja, Cyber Ninja, is that what his name?
Yeah,
they done him. That looks cool. I honestly, when I look at it, like I almost see like the modern RoboCop, the way the lines are in it, the shape of it. So I mean, there's good sculpt there. It's just, it's not what I want in Snake Eyes. So
Frank,
Doom, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, and I've always, just for my personal collection, I've always wanted like a Nuka-Cola girl with that classic style space suit.
Sure.
That's a pretty. I have several posters of that that advertising, and I just think that's a really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can see
that
that.
would be a good start for that too. So yeah, there's still things we want to do, but we're gonna just continue to make things here and there that fit this, fit that, do what we can. Focus on these two big shows that are coming up in June. May when is in May technically, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Yeah, DFW is the last weekend in May.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, as it came in, like it's so like the advertisement for that stuff. The advertising posters that are in the game and that was used for promotions. It's so 50s retro meets Jetsons kind of stuff. It's not what it leans into what they thought the future was going to be, and that's one of the few things that I wish the Prime series had was flying cars, because they kind of like ditched that whole concept. Like all the cars you see have wheels on them, and it's just like that is just one thing that I think would have been kind of cool if they would have leaned into that a little bit. But that's okay. They put in so many Easter eggs and little tidbits to chase down and see which series that came from. They make it pretty fun. And right now they're doing a little bit of the New Vegas stuff, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And they spend a lot more time in the time before the bomb than most of the games ever did. And that's how they're pulling out a little more drama out of it and a little more backstory for the characters, that's cool. That's all. I think that's fun. It adds a little something to the lore without taking away from anything we already got. And that's what I think is important when you take a game and adapt it, or a franchise and adapt it. Don't take away from what's been done and what's already there. I think that's why people get so upset about the Snake Eyes origin that's never been done right. We have an origin. We know how he lost his voice, and it's a pretty heroic story. And it also cements the Scarlet Snake Eyes relationship at the same time. So don't take away from what's there. Add to it. Give me something new and nod to what used to be. That's okay. Just don't break the lore. That's obviously happened with the Star Wars franchise. Is like every new thing they do seems to break lore in a terrible way. It's not that we can't get on board with these new ideas and trying to make a show that fits modern taste, but don't break the lore to do that. Put the story inside of the lore. We've got the Republic game. You got games that they've done. They didn't break the lore, but they built this huge game universe. So it's just I don't know. Maybe it's a respect thing. Maybe it's just I just don't understand why you have to break the lore to tell a story. Not every story has to be a lore breaking revelation that oh gotcha, you thought that was true, but it really wasn't. You don't have to do that in every show.
No, especially when you're using an IP and banking on the fans to support it. Just give us the movie live action adaptation of what we already love.
Yeah,
doing anything but that seems disingenuous. Like, oh, you want to see this Captain America movie? Well, as it turns out, Cap was actually a Nazi. So you've been cheering for the fascists the whole time. Like, no, don't
do that.
Don't go fuck yourself. That's not Cap. You made something up. Don't paint it as something that I love, and then change the fundamentals. You want to change the look a little bit. You want to put your own spin on it. I'm fine with that. That happens every time a new artist gets on a book. They change it to look the way they think it should look. I'm okay with that.
And I don't think
fundamentals stay steady.
I don't think it's toxic fandom to want the media to reflect the lore that you've been accustomed to.
Yep.
I don't think that's toxic at all. Don't tell me I'm toxic because you're trying to make a show that's not for me. That's fine, but don't depend on me to pay for the tickets. If you're not making it for me, then why would I buy it? Why would I pay $50 to go see the movies and buy a thing of popcorn and a drink? Why would I do that if you told everybody that it's not for me? This is for new fans. Okay, well then I'm not going to go see it.
Yeah,
I can make that choice. I'm not toxic. It's just, times are tough. I'm having to weed down toy collections. I'm having to weed down what streaming services I watch. Yep. I think I could also weed down how many times I spend $50 to go see a movie.
For sure.
I know it doesn't take you to spend $50 for one person to go see a movie, but it's fun to take somebody with you so that you can talk about it on the way home. So.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's exactly right, Zach. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Not for you, but it's your fault it failed.
Don't do an entire media campaign where you tell everybody that it's not for you. And then after the movie doesn't hit the numbers you wanted it to hit, blame it on the people you told it wasn't for you. Don't do that.
Nope. That's on you. That's on you. The people that have supported that IP for 50, 60, 70 years are the people that give a shit about the IP. Like it's a fan base that's grown over generations.
Those are the people that will spend $50 to go see the next movie.
When you change it and you start trying to get these other groups and you start shitting on what has made everybody a fan of it for 60 years to get the people that might be interested in this new version of it, you've lost all of the fandom to get some temporary success. And now the rest of the people are like, well, go fuck yourself because you took something I love and you fucked it up. I mean, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. But a lot of the things that they do don't. Jimmy, I'm going to get your stuff sent out this week. Now that we're past the holidays, hopefully I can trust carriers. So I'm going to get your stuff in the mail tomorrow.
Yeah, Largo, that is I'm not going to shoot that one up too much because of the R word on there. People get upset about that. But yes, that is exactly right. And Doctor Who's a perfect example. I mean, oh man. Yeah. It's it was made at a different time. It started at a different time, but other shows update accordingly without, again, breaking lore. Don't do a feature presentation where the entire thing you're going to shit on every single thing that was done before this season. Don't do that.
That's it.
This ain't Dallas. It was all a dream. No, dude, the shit happened.
Yeah, don't.
And I was all for it.
We don't want that.
It was okay for each Doctor to be a little different, have different things that they were going through. When they brought it back, and what's that guy's name? Zach, the guy that plays Destro in the G.I. Joe movies. I can't think of his name, but when he was Doctor Eccleston, is that his name? When he was Doctor Who for that season, it was darker, but they didn't break lore. It was just a lot more about his personal struggle with dealing with what happened during the war, So, and that's interesting to me. But I can go on TikTok and watch 500 people scream about these current issues that are, infecting our society. I don't also need Doctor Who to do that.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about current issues and it's okay to address those. But when I personally think those issues are really non-issues, like Mikey was saying, if you make a movie for a small group of people that don't normally go see movies, and then you think that's going to hold a multi-million-dollar franchise, sorry, man, that's not going to work.
No.
Well, yes and no. There is a way to do that, like, again, without breaking the lore, without scrambling the fans' brains with new think. Like, you don't have to do that. Just make good entertainment. It's sad to me that some of the best movies that come out in the last 3 years are movies people refuse to talk about or just don't get any press at all. There's some good stuff out there, and they don't do that. They talk about topics that no one wants to openly talk about, except the people that want to talk about it, and they will watch it. Sound of Freedom, for instance. That's a rough, dark movie that nobody wanted to talk about. Nobody wanted to even talk that movie was made. They tried to keep it from ever being made, but it talked about a really important subject, and it's something that we need to think about, especially with some of the other subjects going out. That always gets swept under the rug that is happening. So I think it's okay to make some political, like I said, that Doctor Who, when Eccleston took over Doctor Who, that season really dove into the effect that war has on even someone that's considered a hero or somebody that's trying to do good, the darkness that he dealt with, so that's okay. I think that's good. But to, like I say, it didn't break the lore. They didn't do anything in there that said, oh, guess what, man? Who you thought was Doctor Who? Nope. It was just some dudes. What? No, that's not how this works. So, I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, I don't, like, Mikey knows, like, I have very, like, strong opinions on these things, and I don't want to alienate people with those opinions, but you can't make a movie for the minority of people and expect that same movie to be desired by the mainstream people. You can't. That's twisted logic, which again is very common, especially if you watch TikTok at all, videos at all. You'll see this entire like creep in of this idea that everything that was before is wrong. No, it's not. We learn from the lessons from the past. Learn from those things, and it's okay to talk about them, but talk about them in a way that like brings it to the forefront. And people always bring up how Star Wars had Nazi propaganda, like that was the bad guys, and this was based on this, and this was based on that. Yeah, George Lucas. But when you watch that movie, at any point there, do you feel like he's making a political statement? No, not really. I mean, yeah, if you want to dig into it and say, oh, the rebels are this and this, but I see people that have adapted the rebel insignia for a mainstream movement. If you're not the rebel, you're the establishment. Stop. If the government agrees with you, you're the establishment. Crazy, but and yeah, as long as you that's right, Laura, because now when they do it, they're beating you over the head with those current day issues, and it takes you out of that future or alternate reality that's going on in the show. It takes you out of it because you're like, oh my god, I have to see it here too. So yeah, Brad, if you as long as you can remember the past, you can not be happy with the past, and that's okay. It keeps you from repeating the same mistakes, unless those mistakes are buying hot toys that have rubber components. Just because every time you try it, you hope that they get it right, And it has, Ken. You know that. I know what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. It has started to destroy major franchises, some of our favorites, and we've talked about just here in the last few minutes.
Yep.
So, full on. It's a crazy idea. But, and somebody the other day was asking me about, I saw Mikey the other day and we went to Ollie's. We were joking around about how they sold out of all the Eternals Marvel figures, but they still had stuff from Love and Thunder, right, Mikey? They had those figures and a couple of, this is just one Ollie's, obviously not every Ollie's, but it was funny, and I was just like, and on the way home, my mom was with me, and she said something about that, and I was just like, well, the thing is, no matter what, throughout the history of toys, when you try to sell a female figure in the boys section, they don't sell as good. G.I. Joe had that problem for years. That's, it wasn't that they didn't like girls. It's just that Scarlett's always ended up on the hooks. Cover girls always ended up sticking around because boys didn't want girls. If they had a sister or something, they probably got a boy and a girl for Christmas. That's different. There were family dynamics and dynamics like that. And, some people even at the young age were like, I'm okay with that. But, so even now, when you do an entire wave that's almost all female figures, you're taking a chance there, taking a big chance. Especially when the designs aren't that much different than a movie figure that came out in the last movie. It's just not worth the money. And apparently it's not worth $6.99 either. Yeah. So yeah, and there's lots of the cooties are real, Largo. That's for sure. It's not intentional. It's just that it's what you're trying to do. What you're going to approximation, right? It's not a sort of ism, it's approximation. If you live in an environment where in your worldview this is what you see yourself as, you're going to tend to want to support things that fit your self-image and fit your approximation. You've never been outside of a small town and in a certain demographic. If you've ever been outside of that town, you're probably not going to be real interested in what somebody from 500 miles away, what they see as their reality, because that's not your reality. This is your reality, and you're going to interact with things that make you comfortable, that make you feel good. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's not an ism. It's just proximity. That's how we all go.
Sure.
Yeah, man, Joseph, that's what happened, right? I mean, you turned something that was, classic and good and yes. But that's, I'm talking about the difference between a child buying a toy and the difference between a child buying a toy. And as you got older, here's Lara Croft. And at that time, when that came out and Lara was big, there were several companies, especially if you frequented comic book shops, there were a bunch of companies that were making female figures that were just barely movable statues, but there were a lot of female figures that you could get at a comic book shop or at a shop, that could get diamond distribution products back when they weren't the devil. So yeah. Well, that's what I thought too, but
All right. Well, let's wrap her up.
Wrap it up.
Appreciate you guys watching.
You got a show Wednesday night and Friday night, right?
Wednesday and Friday. Yes. Jane Customers Live. We'll be working on that new leatherneck build for Johnny and
with fellow Silly Goose Tony.
With Tony. Yes. And then Friday with Zakanan, we'll be back on my channel, and we will be joined by Shark Eyes Toy Reviews. So this will be our first. I think this will be our first international show.
Hey.
Our guest has been of another continent, and yeah, continent and prison colony. So that's cool. So we're looking forward to talking to him. And yeah, that's all I've got. You got anything you want to shout out?
Not now. I will say that if you didn't watch the show Friday night, that hitting that up on the replay would be great. It was a good show. Lots of stuff got talked about, and obviously we always thank everyone, not just that comes in here, but is also on the replay squad.
We do appreciate
So
Replay Squad.
it's nice, and looking forward to doing it again in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have some actual stuff to talk about and show some progress on some things. And yeah, so thanks again, everyone, for being here. We appreciate you very much.
Appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for driving to get me to 1,000 subs. That is so unbelievably cool. I'm really excited about it. And obviously, that doesn't happen without you guys, both live and replay squad. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Your engagement means the world. Please like the video, sub if you're not subbed, and till we see you again, you have a good one. All right. Good night.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Eat my short.
Go fuck yourself. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Flush that turd down the drain. Avenge me! Avenge me!
Thank you. Thank you.